Well, hey guys, welcome to today's video. As you can see, I am sitting here right in front of a big old pile of topsoil, a big old pile of dirt, and we're going to be building a bed to put a hedge in today. And if you guys remember, in the last couple of months, we've been piling potting soil and compost and stuff out here by our gate, getting ready to put in some plants and do some soil amending today. And I want to show you a little bit about why we do that and how we do that. So this video will be a little bit different today, showing you kind of a different side of not just only our nursery, but kind of our layout and what we're doing with some of our extra space that we have. But anyway, I hope it'll be helpful to y'all in just seeing how the soil amendment process looks for us, and this is how we do it. So let's dive in here and let's start moving some dirt. To begin with, this is just topsoil that I purchased from a local bulk yard, and this is 4 yards of topsoil that I had brought in here. So one shovel at a time, I'm just going across the existing mound here that we already had out here that just consists of old used potting soil and compost. And all together, I think I went either 3 or 4 times across the top of this, digging topsoil into this little mound here to make a bed. So there's a pretty good percentage of topsoil being mixed into this mound. And this mound, I think, is about 24 or 25 feet long total. So, you know, it takes a lot of shovels to get all of it covered and then covered again and again and get it mixed in to some degree. So it's not mixed in perfect, but it'll do. And I think it's going to make a pretty good product here long term and make a good place for these pinky hydrangeas to grow for a long time. So I just piled it up there and then took a fork and just mixed it in, you know, over and over again until it was finished. And all in all, not too bad of work, even though that topsoil sure does get heavy. And I pulled a tape measure across just to confirm my measurement, make sure everything was all good, and then finally soak it all in to settle it to some degree before we move on to our next steps. Well, all right, I got my bed all fixed up. I got it soaked in. It's been a few hours later, and it's kind of dried out now, and at least dried down where it's not just mud. And I can see I put one of my pinky winky hydrangeas right there. They sure do look small out here, but I'm going to measure these out and bring them right all the way out the length of this. So I'm going to get 7 of them out here in this bed, spaced about 3 feet apart, probably closer than you might normally space them. But I want them to form a solid hedge, and I want a whole lot of branches to come off of these things. So I don't mean off each one individually, but collectively I want to have a bunch of branches, you know, next year and certainly in the years after that. So I'm going to go ahead and stick the rest of these in the ground and get that done. It'd probably take 10 minutes to do all of these because the ground here obviously is so soft, it's just loose dirt. So I'm going to get all these stuck. And the next thing I did is just make a small hole for each one of these trade gallon pinky hydrangeas to go in. I got to tell you, this is the easiest digging I've ever done in my life. It's just loose dirt. You know, it makes you wish, man, I wish all digging was this easy, but literally just flip a couple of shovels of dirt over, make a little hole to put the hydrangeas in, backfill them one by one, and nothing to it. It'd take but, you know, 5 or 10 minutes to do the whole thing. So quick, easy work. So then that gets us to 8 pinky hydrangeas. Had to get one more for the end down there. So look really small, and they are really small, but they will grow. So looking forward to getting this mulch now and finishing this up. And I just covered all of this with mulch, and this is just shredded pine bark, and this is a common product where I live. Whatever is common for you where you live is all you need to use. Nothing fancy, just whatever it takes to get you a nice thick layer of mulch covering up the whole bed. And then, like I always do with everything, soak it in really, really, really well. Just doing something like this, you can almost never put too much water down. So give it a good soak in to water it and settle it. All right, now this looks pretty good, other than the fact that the plants are just small. But again, we are not worried about that. They will grow. Got the pine mulch spread. Pretty thick layer of mulch. I like to get it, you know, pretty thick so it serves its purpose. And that entire bed, let's get down here low so you can see how tall that is. It's probably 2 feet tall from here to here. That's pretty deep, but that's going to settle a whole lot. because there's so much compost in there, there's so much potting soil in there, and then there's, again, you know, at least 2, maybe 3 to up to 4 inches of mulch across there. So that's gonna all settle down, and in time, I think this is gonna make a really, really, really nice raised area above pathetic potting soil. Let me back out here. That's gonna make a really nice hedge of pinky hydrangeas right here at the entrance to our nursery. So I'm obviously gonna keep y'all updated on this as this thing grows and see what it looks like as we go through the seasons. All right, the next thing I'm working on out here is I'm gonna plant a crepe myrtle tree out here. Now, when I say out here, I'm still out here by the road. There you can see my hedge of pinkies that I just put in the ground. And you know, one of our problems out here on all of our 6 acres where our nursery is for the most part, I'd say 80 to 90% of our ground out here is absolutely horrible ground. And what I mean by that is that it's really hard to get anything to grow in it. So, you know, one of the things that I've learned just because of through the years of living in different places and growing and planting different plants just in my yard or growing a garden or whatever, soil is everything. And I know y'all like to make fun of the way I say that word, but just, it's what it is. And it is everything in growing plants. You know, I have people all the time come out to my nursery and they're worried about what they're going to buy because, in their words, they know that they're, quote, going to kill it. And, you know, there's some truth to that. But one of the things that I think a lot of those types of people don't understand is that if you've got bad soil, nothing's going to grow in it. So let me show you just an example of what I mean about that here at my place. Now, this is just the grassy bank out here in front of, you know, our road is right here. A car's about to pass by, and it's about 280 feet down there to the end of it. And, you know, from this angle and from this look, going out that way, it looks like, hey, you got a nice stand of grass growing out here. But the truth is, hardly anything will grow out here. All you see is a bunch of weeds out there, and those weeds hardly even grow. So I can go, even when it's rainy, I can go weeks without having to cut grass out here, because all you get out here is these thin little wispy weed heads sticking up in the air. And when you go through and mow all of this, there's no grass clippings anywhere because there's nothing worth mentioning out here. A closer look at some of this ground and you see what I'm talking about. It's just thin and just nothing grows there at all. And it's not going to unless you do some amending to the soil, and some pretty serious amending at that. Now, y'all may or may not remember a couple of years ago when I built this bed out here that I put all these green giants in, very similar to what I did up at the road with the pinky bed. I just raised it up and planted it in top of that bed. Now, over the last, say, 2.5 to 3 years, this has all settled down and there's barely just a small berm left above ground anymore. But what has happened is all of that compost and potting soil, and I didn't actually use topsoil in this bed, but everything that I put there is just kind of settled down into the ground, almost like it's melted into the ground. It's worked its way into the ground. It's decomposed, it's settled. And now this little bed here is incredibly fertile, and these green giants are just growing like crazy. And that's the same effect that I hope to achieve with the hydrangea hedge that I made up by the road. Doing this a little bit different with planting crepe myrtles out here, instead of using that much product, because it takes a lot of cubic inches of product to build up a raised bed of any size. Instead of doing it that way, I'm digging a hole in the ground and I'm going to fill it in with my amendment instead. So let's have a look at it. Now we're back up here by the road. There's my sign right there. I'm back up here by the road. We're inside the fence now. And I've dug this hole, and this is a pretty huge hole for this little pot. And let me just show you why I did this. Now, this ground, I'm not going to say it's as hard as concrete, but it's really, really hard. It's clay. It's gotten a little bit dry. We've had some heat and it's dried it out. And it took me probably, I don't know, 10 or 12 minutes just to dig this hole. And I had to use a pick to dig it out with. I couldn't do it with a shovel at all. I mean, the ground here is completely ridiculous. And if I just took this crepe myrtle and just stuck it right in that hole and filled all that dirt in there, it's not going to do well at all. In fact, it would probably die by the end of the summer, truth be known. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of my topsoil. Now I've put it in this pot here, and I'm going to fill in really well with this hole and put several inches in the bottom of the hole. That hole is way bigger than it needs to be for this little pot. Let me just show you. I mean, that pot just gets lost in that hole. It's probably 6 inches further down than it needs to be, and the diameter of the hole is probably twice as big as it needs to be. But I did that on purpose because we're going to fill in with topsoil. And just raking the topsoil into the hole here gets about 5, maybe 6 inches in the bottom of the hole. Now I've taken the crepe myrtle out of the pot and set it down in the hole. Let me just kind of show you what's going on here. I want the top of the root ball sitting just about even with the level of the ground here, or just above, an inch above or so. And it's about level, maybe an inch above. I'm happy with that. So I'm just going to continue to take my topsoil and fill in all around this. It takes a lot to do it this way, but in doing this, you're going to amend your soil in such a way that you're going to give your tree a very hospitable environment to grow in. And as it settles and as the next year or 2 years go by and it fills in, it will root out into the ground around it. And a crepe myrtle will thrive in dry, poor soil. So that's one thing to know also. It's just sometimes it depends on what you're planting. But you know, I've got kind of a sad looking Natchez crepe myrtle here that I'm planting. But look, here's the deal. When you're a grower, you think that you can resuscitate any plant. It's just the way it is. So it's kind of what we do sometimes. So I took one of mine that didn't sell, that's ugly, and I'm planting it out here. I really like the 3 distinct stems that it's got. It's just a really nice kind of a frame, or kind of a young plant to kind of build off of. So anyway, that doesn't really have anything to do with what I'm trying to show you today, but we're going to take our topsoil, fill in around this, and then I'll top it off with some of this dirt that I originally dug out, and then we'll go from there. Now, what we're aiming to do when we use soil amendments is, especially if you have a poor clay, hard, dry soil like mine, is these amendments will hold moisture and they'll hold nutrients. So I'm going to fertilize this tree. I'm going to give it a couple of tablespoons of slow release fertilizer like I always do when I plant almost anything in the ground or in a pot. And that's all it will need. I'm going to give it a good drink of water, let the thing soak all the way through, all the way down. And I mean, like, flood the thing. And this tree right here is going to be fine. And like everything else, I'll keep you updated on how it does, how the hydrangeas do. And we're going to plant more trees, more crepe myrtle trees out here on this bank, just to put some stuff out here, that's stuff that we grow and that we routinely have, so people can see, you know, some of the plants that we grow. I think I'm going to put a limelight hydrangea tree out here and just kind of spruce the place up a little bit and begin doing a little bit of landscaping, which is really not my forte, but I can dig a hole and stick a plant in it. So any kind of soil amendments that you might need, you don't have to buy a dump truck load of topsoil. You know, you can buy bagged products, you know, like, you know, even the Miracle Grow stuff that you can buy in your box stores and stuff that's in a blue bag that's made for in-ground use. You want to get the stuff that's for in-ground use. That's something to pay attention to. You know, anything like that can help amend your soil when you have poor soil. Don't just assume, well, we've got terrible soil, so we can't grow anything. That might be true, but you can change it. You can amend it. I mean, amendment is just changing. It's making something better. So this is how we do it, and we're going to use this to grow plants to have cuttings with, and to make it look nicer out here, and to make better use of some of our space out here on our own grounds that we're not using. And a good drink of water. So guys, that's going to be it for today, but we're well on our way to getting things spruced up around here, and I'm pretty happy about that. Well, thank y'all for being here today. I love y'all, and we'll see you on the next one.